quarter touchdowns for the Texans. Watson throws, and so there it is, Will Fuller. From the Falcons 33, off the play fake. Watson with loads of time, fires downfield to the end zone. Touchdown.
And those types of motions.
Down from the 8-yard line, empty backfield, first and goal to the end zone. Touchdown, Darren Fells. Watson on 3rd down and 9, lobs one up to the end zone. It is caught by Darren Fells, his 2nd touchdown today. 3rd down and 5. As Watson sets and now throws, it's Fuller. Will Fuller into the end zone. His 3rd touchdown today.
Deshaun Watson destroyed the Atlanta Falcons, throwing for 426 yards and 5 touchdowns, putting up a whopping 60 fantasy points on the Berserkers. Chris Godwin, the #1 fantasy wide receiver as of now, had another great weekend, catching 7 of 9 targets for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns, giving the Sharks 27.34 fantasy points. Dalvin Cook, the #2 fantasy running back as of now, rushed for 132 yards and had 86 yards receiving, giving the Sharks 23.94 fantasy points. I just want to say one thing about Mike Evans.
What the fuck is that?
The Sharks devoured the Berserkers 183.03 to 122.03.
This is gonna be a match to remember. Fight!
Open for the end zone. Michael Thomas. It's a Saints touchdown. He goes out as a receiver. Kamara. Michael Thomas, the catch. Thomas, the touchdown for the Saints.
Michael Thomas took apart the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, catching 11 of 13 targets for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns, putting up 35.14 fantasy points for the Red Sox. Matt Ryan had a monster game, racking up 42.20 fantasy points on 330 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Matt Ryan also rushed for a touchdown. Tyler Boyd had a good week, putting up 24.10 fantasy points on 123 yards receiving and a touchdown. The Kangaroos are getting closer to winning their first game.
Never give up, never surrender.
But the Red Sox beat the Kangaroos 171.75 to 154.83.
This is gonna be a match to remember. Fight!
The injuries they've sustained, they've needed some bodies. Prescott hit as he throws, and the pass is caught. Gallup, touchdown, Dallas. 4-man rush. Prescott floats it for Cooper, hits him in stride. Cooper stays in bounds for the touchdown. Wow.
Dak Prescott may not have had a good football game, throwing 3 interceptions that basically gave the game away. He did, however, have a great fantasy week, throwing for 463 yards and 2 touchdowns, giving the Apollos 36.85 fantasy points. Defensive player Deion Jones had a great week, racking up 16 fantasy points on 11 tackles and 5 assisted tackles. The Apollos beat the Lunatics 128.98 to 102.57.
This is gonna be a match to remember. Fight!
Give to McCaffrey. Trying to get around the right side. He does. McCaffrey leaps. End zone. Oh! Touchdown! Up and in. Allen on first and 15. He finds McCaffrey at the 10. McCaffrey takes it in. Second score of the day for Christian McCaffrey.
again. I am so surprised that the A-team was able to draft Christian McCaffrey 5th overall. McCaffrey rushed for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also caught 6 of 9 targets for 61 yards and a touchdown. Adam Thielen had a great week, catching 7 of his 8 targets for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, giving the A-team 28.67 fantasy points. The Horde made it a close game with running back Aaron Jones, who ascended to the next level rushing for 107 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also had 75 receiving yards, giving the Horde 47.70 fantasy points. But despite Aaron Jones' monster game, the A-team stays undefeated, beating the Horde in a close one, 177.22 to 168.32.
This is gonna be a match to remember. Fight!
Try and get a quick snap to get too many men on the field. On 2nd and goal, touchdown over the middle to Julian Edelman. Has to play in the 3rd. Brady to throw. Under pressure, throws it, has a man open, he's got it to the end zone. Touchdown, Brandon Bolden. This team's really good on defense, so Brady lofts one into the end zone. All alone is Ryan Izzo for the touchdown.
Tom Brady and the New England Patriots carried the Savages to a victory this weekend. And when I say Patriots, I'm also speaking of Sony Meixsell and Julian Edelman. Tom Brady threw for 348 yards and 3 touchdowns, giving the Savages 34.40 fantasy points. Julian Edelman was on the receiving end of one of the 3 Brady touchdowns, gaining 110 yards receiving and giving the Savages 21.34 fantasy points. Sony Meixsell was also in the mix, rushing for 91 yards and a touchdown for 20.23 fantasy points. I'm sure Snatch City's looking at Phillip Rivers and asking, "What the fuck?" The Savages beat Snatch City 154.90 to 103.35.
This is gonna be a match to remember. Fight!
Here are the rankings after Week 5. In the Sword Division, the Sharks are still on top at 4-1. The Red Sox are in second at 3-2, followed by the Berserkers and Lunatics at 2-3. And in last, the Kangaroos at 0-5. In the Axe Division, the A-team is still undefeated at 5-0. Snatch City comes in second at 3-2, followed by the Horde, the Apollos, and Savages at 2-3. Here are the matchups for Week 6. The Lunatics battle the Savages. The Sharks battle Snatch City. The Kangaroos battle the Horde. The Red Sox battle the A-team. And the Apollos battle the Berserkers. Good luck to everyone in Week 6, Legends of War Season 1.